Hey guys, welcome back to Tipharot. It's me Matt here, and you guys asked for it. You asked for another Q&A video, so here it is. I'm going to take 10 questions that you guys have asked in the comments, and I'm going to do my best to answer them. Let's start with question number 1. Does lucid dreaming, etc. ever make you think that pure solipsism is the final fundamental truth of reality? So to answer that, we need to establish what solipsism is. Solipsism is basically the idea that the only thing that you can know to exist is your own self. All of these other people and things that you interact with, appear to be real, but you don't know they're real. And I sort of half agree with this idea and half don't. So on the one hand, lucid dreaming and similar experiences did teach me that seeing something or experiencing it isn't necessarily sufficient proof that that's the way things are. Our senses can lie to us, and ultimately we are dealing with a kind of processed version of the world around us. Our senses give us an interpretation of the world around us. We can't ever definitively prove that our senses are telling us accurate information. So in that sense, I don't know that anyone or anything outside of me exists or is real or whatever. But at the same time, I don't think I believe in the idea of pure solipsism, because I personally believe that we are kind of all connected and all one anyway. And so in that sense, I do believe in everything outside of me, because I don't think there's any difference between what's outside of me and what's inside of me. Does that make any sense? Probably not. That probably just confused you anymore. I hope maybe that answers your question a bit though. And don't worry, I did see the second question that you asked me as well. Now the reason I'm not reading that out is because that even further increases the chances that this video is going to get demonetized for it, and it probably is anyway, so I would highly appreciate if you guys checked out my new lucid dreaming book and grabbed a copy of that, because this video is probably not going to get any ad revenue. But to answer your question, it's been 5 or 6 years, but yes, I have extensive experience in that area. The reason that you don't hear me talking about those past experiences on this channel is because of what I just mentioned. That will get a video demonetized, and I actually depend on this channel to put food on the table, so can't really do that. Anyway, on to the next question. I had my real first lucid dream early this morning, but I couldn't get it light in my dream. I mean, I couldn't turn the lights on. It was dark and I had a very hard time seeing. I had no problem flying, flipping and going through walls, just with the light. Anyone have any tips? So this can happen sometimes. I've had this a lot where I will get lucid in a dream and it's just like night time. And not only that, but like all the lights in my house are off, and turning them on or attempting to turn them on does nothing. And it's just super dark. On top of that, the dream might be cloudy and blurry as well, so your vision isn't good even if there is light. And really the easiest thing to do if you find yourself in this situation is to use dream control to transport yourself to a completely different location. You can use techniques like imagining that on the other side of a door, you're going to be out in a sunny desert or on a sunny beach or something. Basically, imagine somewhere bright and sunny and transport yourself there. Because generally I find that lighting in a dream tends to be fairly consistent. Now this isn't always the case, but if you're walking around a very well lit up area and then you go into another area, it's probably going to be reasonably well lit up. So if you're like outside in the sun and you go inside, then it's going to be light inside, or there's going to be lights on or whatever. And if it's dark outside and you go inside a house, then it's usually dark in there too. And I think it's just because your brain kind of has a hard time jumping from dark to light all the time, so it just kind of stays in one mode until you really force it to change. So I find in that case, changing the location entirely is very, very helpful. Right, next question. How To Lucid made a video claiming that using an ABS audiovisual synthesizer like the Procyon for 4 minutes can give you the benefits of 1 hour of meditation. What's your take on this? So an ABS or audiovisual synthesizer is also known as a brain machine, a mind machine, or a light and sound machine. In this case, the Procyon, I believe, is a light and sound machine. Now, light and sound machines typically have two components. They usually have a component of trying to influence your brainwaves using things like binaural beats, and they usually also use the Ganzfeld effect. A really simplified way of explaining what the Ganzfeld effect is that when your brain is understimulated, it will try to amplify every signal that it receives. So when your eyes are covered and you're just seeing some repetitive colors or flashes or some noise, and you're just listening to white noise or pink noise or binaural beats, then what will happen is your brain is understimulated and it's going to amplify that noise, and it's going to try and make sense of it. And what's going to come out is you're going to start seeing, shapes moving around, and perhaps start seeing something similar to Hypnagogia, where you start seeing scenes forming and having a kind of visionary experience. And this is definitely a real effect that works, and these light and sound machines can be used for that purpose. Now, as for the binaural beats side of things, there have been some studies that have shown binaural beats have relaxed people, that binaural beats have reduced anxiety and stuff like that. And so there are some shared benefits between something like this and something like meditation. But I think it's still very important to see that these are two entirely different things that have some small overlap. You can't really use something like this to replace sitting meditation, for the same reason that you can't use one of my guided meditations to replace sitting meditation. The thing that makes sitting meditation or breath meditation so powerful is that you are making a concentrated effort to stay present with your breath. And you doing that is what leads to those long-lasting changes that make meditation so wonderful. But at the same time, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't use guided meditations and stuff like that. And in the same vein, I kind of want to say the same thing here. Something like a mind machine, a light and sound machine, can have a lot of benefits of its own and might be worth exploring, but it's also not something that's going to replace sitting meditation. If you're only going to choose one of them, I would tell you to choose sitting meditation, but if you want to do both, then go for it, and in fact it could even be a very useful tool to warm you up for meditation because of the relaxing state that it can put you in. Next question, is it possible to save your progress in a lucid dream? So it's funny because I just recorded a dream story video that you might see soon, in which I sort of talked about this idea, how our dreams aren't really persistent, you know. When you wake up in the morning, you're back in the same world, continuing off from where you were yesterday. Whereas when you go into a dream, you can be somewhere completely different and there isn't that continuation. However, you can go back, you can revisit places that you've been in dreams before. So let's say that you had a really awesome lucid dream and you kind of wanted to continue off with that adventure. Well, you can use lucid dream control techniques to transport you back to the location you were, to put the characters back where they were, and then you can continue the story. Now obviously this is going to take a bit of work and this is going to eat into the time that you've got to spend in your lucid dream, so I don't do this often, but I've done this a few times where I've had, you know, some kind of story that didn't get finished because I woke up and I just wanted to continue it, so I would transport myself back. And one of the easiest ways for doing this is just to imagine yourself appearing there while performing Wild, and then I would just continue where I left off. So to answer your question, you can't exactly save your progress, but you can just go back to the same places and people and kind of continue where you left off next time if you really want to do that. Next question, should I lucid dream when I'm depressed and have anxiety from it? So at first I was a bit confused about this. I thought he meant he was depressed and has anxiety from lucid dreaming, but I think what he means is he's depressed and has anxiety because he's depressed. I feel like I would just have nightmares, but I want to so bad. So should this put you off lucid dreaming? Well, absolutely not. I've struggled with both of these things to some degree throughout my life, and especially with anxiety, which is something that has been a massive burden on me for a very long time. And that hasn't put me off lucid dreaming. That hasn't, you know, made my lucid dreams negative or anything like that. And on the subject of nightmares, lucid dreaming basically eradicated nightmares for me. I have got so familiar with the dream state that I immediately recognize my nightmares, or usually anyway. So 9 times out of 10, when I have a nightmare, I just immediately know that I'm either dreaming or that I'm safe and can wake myself up. And so nightmares stop being scary, because if you know that you're safe and can wake yourself up, then hey, that big monster chasing you doesn't really mean much, does it? Now, lucid dreaming hasn't, you know, cured my anxiety or anything like that, but it has certainly helped. So rather than being something that you should be afraid of, I would actually say if anything, it could potentially have a positive impact. If nothing else, I'm certainly happier now than before I started lucid dreaming, and so it might help in that area. Next question, is it common in dreams to hear voices or see faces of people you have never even seen? Like if the brain just created a face or voice out of nowhere? So I can't actually give you a definitive answer to this. I think we've all heard that idea that you can't see faces of people you've never met in a dream, but I'm not really sure where that idea originated or how anyone could possibly prove that. So I can't really tell you whether we see new faces or if we've seen every face in a dream before or whatever. I mean, I know when I run into people in dreams, most of them don't look like people that I know or have seen before. In fact, even when I look at people that I know in dreams, usually their faces are distinctly different from how they are in the real world. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I haven't seen those faces before. Maybe I have, and you know, I just don't remember it. You know, we see millions and millions of faces. So I don't think anyone can really give a definitive answer to this. But as for if it's common to hear voices or see faces that you don't think you've encountered before, definitely, I know I do. Next question, can you get sleep paralysis from this? So this was actually on one of my videos about Lucidesc. Now, if you don't know what Lucidesc is a lucid dreaming supplement designed to increase your chances of lucid dreaming. It contains something called huperzine A, and I've reviewed it on this channel before and found it to be quite effective. So Lucidesc in itself isn't going to give you sleep paralysis, but Lucidesc will increase the time that you spend in REM, and by doing that, in theory, your risk of sleep paralysis has slightly increased. Because sleep paralysis can only occur in REM, so the more time you spend in REM, technically, the more likely you are to encounter it. But unless you're prone to sleep paralysis to begin with and experience it regularly, then sleep paralysis is something that is quite rare when you're not actively trying to induce it. And so you're just taking something that's very, very unlikely and making it very, very slightly less unlikely. So I definitely wouldn't worry about that, but also, as I've talked about on this channel before, sleep paralysis is nothing to be afraid of. You cannot be hurt by sleep paralysis, and if you just remember that it's just sleep paralysis and understand that it's just a scary experience like a nightmare and that you're going to be awake soon, then you'll find that sleep paralysis loses its ability to scare you. Now, if you do want to get your hands on Lucidesc, there is an affiliate link down in the description below, and there's also a code next to it that you can use to get 20% off. And if you do use that link, then a percentage goes towards my channel. So what that means is, if I did get demonetized for that earlier question, then you can definitely help me out by going and grabbing yourself a bottle of Lucidesc. Anyway, next question. Does sleep quality affect lucid dreaming / regular dreams? Yeah, definitely. The time that you spend in REM is going to be based on how much time you actually spend asleep. So if you have poor quality sleep, that often means that you're not actually asleep as long as you think you are. So you might spend 8 hours in bed and actually only be asleep for 5 of them because you keep waking up so much. So that'll mean less time spent in REM and less of a window in which you can lucid dream. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't lucid dream with poor sleep quality. And if you do find yourself tossing and turning and waking up throughout the night, then what I suggest is to perform a lucid dreaming technique every time you wake up, so that you further increase your chances of getting lucid and actually take advantage of all that waking up instead of having it be a disadvantage. Next question, can somebody help me? I don't know if it is because I don't know my REM stages, but whenever I wake up about 6 hours after I fall asleep, I don't see any images when I wake up or anything, and I can't seem to do any methods like filed or wild. So if you've just woken up in REM and you've closed your eyes and you're relaxing, then you might see phosphenes or lights moving around behind your closed eyes, or you might see some imagery, but that doesn't mean that you always will. Sometimes you won't, and some people will notice it more than others. So you not seeing any images doesn't mean that you're not in REM. It's more that if you close your eyes and you do start seeing dream scenes forming and stuff, then you can be pretty sure that you are. Now, you've mentioned filed and wild, and personally for beginners I recommend mild or wake back to bed as the first technique that you try. So what I would suggest to you is to try one of those, mild or wake back to bed, and do that for a couple of weeks using your 6-hour alarm and see what the results are then. If you get lucid during that time, then great, then 6 hours works for you. But if you don't, then that's when you might want to experiment with a different time, like setting an alarm for 5.5 hours or 5 hours. And the Big Pig asks, I've been doing reality checks almost every 5 minutes today. Does this mean I am more likely to lucid dream? Well, if you're doing reality checks, then yes, you're more likely to lucid dream than if you're not doing them. As for, how many is optimal, I don't think you need to do them that often. The main thing is to do them properly, that's the most important thing, and to do them consistently, i.e. every single day. Do them properly and consistently, and ideally combine them with another technique or two, and you will get the results that you desire. One thing I'd also recommend is checking out the Lucid Dream book, my lucid dreaming book that released recently. Since this video has already dragged on, I'm going to display some information on screen about what's inside the book, so if you want to know what's inside it, you can pause the video, read through that, and then if you want to go get it, you can go to gum.co/theluciddreambook. That's gum.co/theluciddreambook. Thanks for tuning in. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe and enable notifications. And if you want to keep watching, check out one of those videos on screen, go watch that, and I'll see you there soon. Take care.